thank you again to President Crow for each and every time he chooses to spend time with us. This is a little bit of an agenda outline, so what's coming for the next several hours here. I want to encourage folks just to make note of the timing. We've intentionally designed these 2 days so that folks could, in fact, take slices of their day, at least hopefully both days, to participate. We've got some fantastic showcases of activities planned in just about an hour and a half or so, with and as well as actually doing a SOAR analysis, and some fantastic panels and wonderful opportunities. Please do use the link that you see there, which is pretty straightforward, an Empower agenda, or I'm sure you've seen it in the chat and or in the Slack channel, which has been set up where we've got called the Empower Lobby. So please, by all means, keep the conversations going. If it's all right, let's go to the next slide. Again, this is just as it relates to both the Empower Lobby over the next 2 days. I think most all of you know that there's the better part of 1,300 folks in the ASU IT community Slack channel. I love, and I am more of a lurker in this one than many other channels, just the way it has proven to be, especially during COVID, an extraordinary resource for the community. And again, I continue to hope that you will leverage it to learn from, share with, and actually celebrate each other's successes. I think we do a great job in problem solving, and part of what we want to do for Empower is actually not only teach about new things, but celebrate some of the remarkable accomplishments this last year. And with that, if you'll go to the next slide, I will actually begin. For those of you who've actually had a chance to see some of my presentations in Empower over the years, I'd like to do this by the numbers, because these are stories that really, I think, are worth noting. In fact, I'm going to start with this one. President Crow made it pretty clear, but I'm going to underscore this. This was an incredibly complex year, a remarkable year for planet Earth and for all of us here at ASU. 18,000 ASU graduates is a huge number. It's the largest number ever of ASU graduates at this institution, and one of the very largest in the entire world in terms of a graduating cohort. And if you think about it, it just wasn't 18,000 graduates graduating in a quote unquote typical year. All the rhythms, all of the rituals, all of the general ways in which teaching and learning went on were completely disrupted this last year. And we know about, and we are actually been trying over the year to underscore the human resilience, the resilience of our students, the innovation of our faculty to adapt their teaching and learning. But I just want to take a moment to start here by saying that the success of these 18,000 students, whether they were online learners or immersive on-campus learners, returning, finding pathways to ASU, this amazing accomplishment would not have been possible, especially this year, were it not for ASU's professional IT community. So I just want to start by acknowledging that while every year we contribute to student success, it is the core of what we do here at ASU in terms of our commitment to, as President Crow just finished sharing, the mission of the institution. And it's fundamental. It's one of those 3 legs of the stool that you just heard him speak about, which is actually making sure that we are student-centered. This is a remarkable accomplishment, and I want to begin by acknowledging all of you in your contribution to student success. This is a number, this is a new high water mark. And I do want to say that next year we will have more students graduating. And let me just give you a little bit of my own insight here. Next year's numbers will be larger. Our role as IT professionals will be even more important than in this year of disruption. Next year, we are rolling into what will undoubtedly be a hugely complicated time with lots of hybrid delivery and hybrid support infrastructure needed. And so we all need to be ready to come back and be even more supportive of, again, the resilience of our students and the innovation of our faculty. Let's go to that next slide. Also just wanted to share with you that obviously, all kinds of services needed to be enhanced on our websites. The data here are actually just for Q3. That is January through the end of March, just. And it's not just that the numbers are amazing. I shared these numbers with President Crow's cabinet 2 weeks ago when I delivered my state of IT at ASU to his executive committee. But it's more, and that represents a double-digit percentage growth from Q3 last year. But think about it. It's not just that we're getting more traffic. It's all the services that this professional community has enabled in this environment. All of the amazing successes the institution has had with remarkable launching of new institutes and new degree programs and new partnerships, all driving eyeballs from all over the world to, not so much to the front doors of buildings on campus, but rather through the digital presence, in significant measure through our websites, and obviously in related ways to obviously all the other important services. And again, one of those really important services here is actually to ASU's long-standing, again, one of the secret sauces at ASU. Please do check with all of your colleagues all over the country. Nobody has a platform technology with all of the hooks that are enabled by my ASU. It is a remarkable, again, this is just Q3, a remarkable portal into the incredible complexity. And one of the secrets, I believe, of ASU's success is that most of the complexity, we have room to improve as a community, but most of the complexity is hidden to most of our community through these sort of single pane of glass technologies like my ASU, like our web spaces, like the mobile app, and through other technologies that we use. That is, again, remarkable. 340,000 members of the community, obviously not only active, but also students and community members who are engaged in again, constant use, whether it's we as staff members, obviously students, we have hooks into and out of my ASU to support other workflows. It is a remarkable accomplishment. Again, hats off to the entire IT professional community at ASU. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. One of the most remarkable challenges that, again, I speak with my CIO colleagues all over the land, and a number of you have participated with me in speaking with IT leadership teams across the country, actually all over the world, is how is it that ASU was as successful as we were during the COVID period? And part of it is the reality that we build on the shoulders of a remarkable tradition of IT professionals at ASU. It really is, and I think many of you know, but I've had a relationship with ASU's IT community now going on 28 years. I've only been here 3.5 years, but I actually have an appreciation for the remarkable contribution of the community that has developed here, that have spent their careers here, advancing the institution under different leadership along the way. And one of the remarkable attributes, I think Sophie asked or posed the question on behalf of others regarding culture, is that there is a terrific collegiality. When we survey on our side of the community, that is the University Technology Office, what our team members appreciate most, it is each other and the collegiality and the common commitment. Again, I think President Crow, drew specific reference to how important it is that we're all focused on the North Star of the Charter that is underway. But in particular here, I want to share that Many universities felt hamstrung, felt inadequate with respect to the tools that they had to actually advance their schools during this most disruptive period of time. And just to give you a reference here, again, we live in a very special bubble here at ASU. I was just chatting with my colleagues, the CIOs of the Pac-12, and it just struck me for a moment, right? Many of them are, of course, University of California campuses. They have not been at the university for 14 months physically at all. And they have struggled mightily with how to actually transform the institution to a remote online environment. And while there is a lot, again, I've just acknowledged some of the most important long-term contributions that we're building on, I believe that the collaborative environment that we've created, and again, Slack is not the only platform. There are other platform technologies that we use to advance collaboration. I think is nevertheless, collaboration technologies is one of our secret sauces that is out there. And again, the level of messages is rather remarkable when, again, this is just on a quarterly basis to be taking a look at the level of that particular technology platform for services that are out there. Again, this is just one small data point that I think is just worth reflecting on. It's not the number, although that in and of itself is always impressive. Again, one of the other data points that's important to understand is that 1 out of every 2 classes at ASU stood up a collaboration platform. So faculty innovation, students wanting to find better ways to hang out, what's the equivalent of an office hour? How do you talk to your professor when you leave the class? Many of those were supported and serviced through Slack messages as again, creative ways that faculty innovated and actually supported both one another as well as engagement with their students as their mentors, and having students as mentees have a chance not only to work with the faculty, but work with each other along the way. One of the other really important pieces was, and again, we've just been on a tour of talking to the deans of our university, working with my colleagues here, Jess Evans, working with Donna Kidwell, working with Dunny Schutz. We've been meeting with all of the deans of the university and asking them about what was it this past year that was significant in terms of our contribution to their success. And actually, several of the deans in this last week have mentioned actually our ability to both solve a business challenge and a pedagogical opportunity with software tools. And last fall, thanks to great effort across the campus led by our creative team, we actually helped to raise the visibility of the ASU library of software that actually made it possible for learners to download, again, tool sets, some of them which were highly complex with lots of very, I would say, arcane business processes, more like that traditional bureaucratic model that President Crow was referring to. Again, to actually download really hundreds of thousands of pieces of software through the ASU Digital Backpack initiative, where again, students learned about the full suite of software. And we, of course, oftentimes, aren't as mindful as we might be that every year we basically have 37% of our population is new. Those are first year students and transfers. And so there is no memory of how to do things because they weren't here. And so with, I think you all know this, but I certainly work with my team on this, which is that back to school is a really big deal because so much of the community has actually never been here before. And we have to constantly think creatively about how to make sure that the community is well aware of the remarkable resources And when you do think about it, again, chat with your colleagues around the country. There are almost no, I mean, there are no universities that actually offer the digital backpack in the way that we have. I'll give you just a couple of quick examples of some, I think, remarkable developments that took place in this last year, as and specifically relates to this COVID period of time. Right about this time last year, we were all sweating bullets because the labs for computing were basically not going to be able to support the density of use that was, of course, in the traditional sort of model. And it was a particularly challenging one. The truth is, let's back this out. This is more like last year, about back in the sort of late March timeframe. And one of the most difficult tools to work out, because the model, the licensing model, was completely arcane, was with Adobe. Adobe had a lab licensing model for its creative tools. And the Creative Cloud product was sold 25 different ways to ASU. And none of it actually scaled. And when labs were being actually essentially closed for purposes of student access, it turned out that ASU was first among the institutions in the land to turn to Adobe and say, we've got to reinvent a better way together to deliver this tool set. And again, we were able to, especially for the period that basically from the end of March till July, help all the universities across the world. It was based on ASU's initiation of this work. I have it directly from the CEO of Adobe, who I've known for probably 15 years now, that he just wasn't aware of the extent to which the software licensing program was broken for education. And we resolved the issue, and then thanks to great leadership here at ASU, partnering again, schools level involvement, colleagues from Cronkite, colleagues from Haida, colleagues from across the college, working together with Kyle Bowen and his team, working with our software procurement team, with both Nate Corwin and Valerie Garcia. We actually helped to put together a program that affords effectively all the students at ASU who want to have access to the Creative Cloud to have it available for their learning or for their entrepreneurial or creative work that they want to engage in. And again, the digital backpack campaign helped us raise the visibility of that product from a couple thousand licenses to now multiple tens of thousands of users of that environment, and working creatively with our colleagues in diverse programs from engineering to English, working with the faculty on how to use those tools going into next fall, which again will be a remarkably complex environment. The other just quick thing to frame here is that Dropbox, it was another, I think, big win for ASU when we recognized together how important it was that students have a place in a COVID period in particular, not restricted to the consumer experience, which is, while all of us as IT professionals and most of the sort of employee base that we support has had unlimited Dropbox space, that was not the case for all of our students. They actually had the consumer experience. And again, thanks to terrific work by the team, working on expressions of concern from our faculty and wanting to advance student success, we successfully negotiated unlimited student storage along the way. And again, all of that got packaged into a campaign for the digital backpack. And as sure as day follows night, we'll have a back to school campaign launched again to make sure that next year's incoming, again, first year class and transfer class are aware of the remarkable resources that we as IT professionals deliver for the campus. Let's go to the next slide. It comes as no surprise that one of the, again, pivots that we made, those of you who've been at ASU for a period of time, let's say for the last decade, will know that we had essentially 6 or 7 different video solutions in play. Turns out that it was actually a bit of good luck, just sort of serendipitous, as well as a little bit of planning to try to actually, before COVID, to begin to pivot to a really important conversation that we have every day with many of you and many of the business leaders, whether those are academic leaders or on the business and finance side of the house, which is how do we begin to think about how we can work better together to advance enterprise level solutions. So I just finished talking about software for enterprise engagement. There's obviously a dynamic on every campus that is distributed as ours, which is letting 1,000 flowers bloom, trying all kinds of different things, trying to be as creative as we can to help advance one professor's idea of what a good piece of software is, or even of our own sensibilities on it. I think we've worked together to try to identify a core set of software tools that actually we in the University Technology Office can support you, where the game to win is not actually the procurement. I think that in many ways, in my view at least, that is a bit of a kind of 1990s to early 2000s kinds of sensibility. It's not about the procurement. It's actually in the use of the tools. And we work really well, I think, with ASU's enterprise procurement team. I think we're working better with the risk analysis team. I think hopefully, the security reviews that are required to protect the institution. Just this morning, I was on a call with a major company that it itself, which was not public, I did not realize this, has been dealing with ransomware because security reviews were not particularly robust and rigorous. This has impacted not only corporate, here in the Valley. Our good friends and colleagues at Maricopa County Community College were down for 2 weeks, and actually, truth be told, they have been basically in recovery mode pretty much since the end of quote unquote spring break to try to get their systems back together along the way. So the security review piece of this is enormously important, and the enterprise bears responsibility. It is a bit of good cop, bad cop. Many of you tell us that you fully appreciate the role of the security team as a kind of check against unbounded enthusiasm and a little bit of a cavalier attitude that many of our most creative and entrepreneurial faculty are excited to try to advance. There is a very important and continuing role for us to be careful about the way we approach this. One of the other important enterprise pieces of technology that we've obviously introduced at scale, and we are the largest consumer of Zoom in higher education in the country here. Obviously doing, again, just last quarter, 3 million Zoom sessions is a remarkable number in any industry for any quarter that is out there. It turns out that the number of classes is actually much smaller as a percentage of the total 3 million here than the meetings, the webinars, and the way we've actually conducted business, both here on the campus across the Valley, as well as we've done with colleagues all over the country. It is remarkable. I know that actually my colleague Mike Sharkey has done some remarkable analysis of the breakdown of the way in which Zoom technologies are consumed. We actually publish those continuously in our key data web pages to see them. And again, the use of Zoom has been essentially consistent throughout the COVID year. Same can be said for our learning management system. It's consistent in terms of essentially everyone is using it along the way. What is growing, what has grown significantly this past year has been in its use for the many other ways in which we actually collaborate to support, whether those are, again, office hours being done creatively or meeting times along the way. I think those are hugely important examples along the way. And the folks at Zoom love to tease us. This is not actually how they calculate the number of Zoom meeting minutes. This is, I believe, this is our calculation, which is way more conservative. But when you add up 82 million minutes in one quarter, you know that it has been a remarkable transformation and pivot. It has also actually challenged us, especially now that we are kind of here, in the May timeframe, thinking about the path to to really establishing what is the new normal going to be going forward. And sometimes it's spoken of in terms of Zoom fatigue, which, you know, in and of itself may be actually something that our minds and our bodies are beginning to talk back to us in a much more serious way. But it's also, I think, a number of questions that Sophie posed on behalf of you had to do with culture. And ASU is obviously, you've just heard President Crow, it is a remarkable culture in part, as he pointed out, because we have a design aspiration to leverage our place. And I know it is an issue of some significant challenge and sensitivity and complexity that is out there right now. But part of what we are all going to have to work on for all of the community, not just for working with each other, but working with our student and faculty colleagues, is actually a new balance, a new reset. Where Zoom, I have no doubt, when we could get together next year for our Empower gathering, we will be showing more data about the number of Zoom minutes that we're consuming. I wouldn't be surprised if it stays actually pretty close to these kind of remarkable 3 million minutes a quarter. But at the same time, we have to find a way to new hybrid models to support our students, to support our faculty as they reset. Enormously important for students to have choice, enormous opportunity for us to actually deliver new combinations of service delivery models. And part of it is also for ourselves to think about, not only can we be incredibly efficient with Zoom in terms of productivity, you know, if need be, we can slice our day into 15-minute segments and just do back to back to back. And at one point, certainly early on, I think during COVID, we kind of went, wow, this is a remarkable productivity gain. It actually comes at a significant cost. And the cost is not only personal challenges in terms of essentially exhaustion and fatigue with this level of engagement, it is also, as we've been discussing in the University Technology Office, it is actually impacting our culture. And we want to be intentional about whatever we do collectively as ASU's IT professionals to actually help shape and then have the opportunity to help reshape the culture of the institution as we again enter next year, which I've now said multiple times is going to be even more complex and more challenging for us as IT professionals, and hope that we actually are in a position, as we were last year when we pivoted to a Zoom enabled experience, to begin to create models for those hybrid opportunities that are there with the creative integration of screen technologies with human face-to-face engagements along the way. Let's go to the next slide. Again, to share with you here some of the work at the University Technology Office, just again in the last quarter, it's been hugely important for us, and we've been very intentional about this, making sure that in addition to a remarkable number of meetings, that we're actually doing gatherings. You know, we've had a town hall format that we kicked in at the beginning of COVID. We were meeting every other week. Now we're meeting once a month for these activities. These have proven to be hugely important, not just for information sharing, but for the sense of staying connected to each other. We've also not only been doing that work in the context of keeping in touch with each other, we've also been, as we've, I think everyone hopefully is aware, we've also been the convener of regional and national and international gatherings to keep the community, broadly defined, engaged with one another, especially in this most disruptive and complicated year that we've been through. ASU is the home of Shaping EDU, a national convening, actually truthfully an international convening that started really only 3 years ago with just 100 and change people. Today, through the success of ASU's effort, especially again during COVID, to find ways of supporting communities of practice in the scope of what we do at Shaping EDU around focusing in on creating communities of practice for those who are the dreamers, the doers, and the drivers of the future of education. That engagement now is measured in tens of thousands of people around the world as ASU and Shaping EDU stepped into the void, especially around COVID, to offer very important events and gatherings. Our team that does events, led by Erin Morrow, has done fantastic work for us, but I'm actually most proud of the fact that her professional colleagues across ASU have actually turned to her to actually help them do their work professionally in a way that helps extend. And those have been international conferences with tens of thousands of people. Those have been local and actually intimate conversations that people want to be able to have. And Erin has really done just a remarkable job. And part of what we are trying to also do during this time in particular is be very mindful of some of the giving back to our community efforts. And if you'll go to the next slide, I just want to point out one or two of those, if it's okay. Oops. Just to share with you, all the UTO by the numbers is a quarterly product. Thanks to Samantha Becker and her team for assembling these. This is brought together by our team. It not only reflects, obviously, the University Technology Office, it reflects all of us in the IT professional community around the way. And I hope you will yourself take a look at these and some of the stories that are embedded in these quarterlies, but also share them, because this is something to be remarkably proud of in terms of our contribution, again, as I started with the 18,000 students who graduated, but all the other daily ways in which we support this remarkable community. I did want to just go to the next slide to talk about one of the community give back projects, if it's all right. I just wanted to share that one of the huge, I would say, opportunities, and again, I'm just going to reference quickly here President Crow's framing of why ASU is so different as an institution. Again, there's a bit of a caricature in the way he describes everyone else. And when Sophie asked him the question, who else is following? I think that was actually Warwick Fawn's question. President Crow has a view that he's not as much worried about who's going to follow, but rather what we represent as a prototype. And the prototype is not only in terms of what we do for our students and our faculty, but actually for the communities within which we actually live and work. The ASU for You initiative that, again, many of you contributed to assembling the remarkable catalog of ways in which ASU could support. Again, another question that Sophie posed around K-12. A remarkable, not only is it got to do with ASU Prep and ASU Digital Prep, it's got to do with a remarkable collection of services, professional development for teachers across not only Arizona, for which ASU receives some significant funding here in the state, but across the country in partnership with Zoom, to helping teachers all over the country learn how we use that technology for advancing student success along the way. One of the other ways, again, just a quick shout out here, is that I believe, and I have believed for a very long time, that one of the most remarkable things that we as IT professionals contribute is our knowledge about the network. We absolutely now, and does the community, just expect the network to work. But it is one of our most, I would say, remarkable engineering capacities that we have in higher education, is our ability to actually make incredibly complex network access essentially as reliable and predictable as electricity. One of the challenges is that all around us are communities, including right here in the Valley, where 35 to 40% of the community actually has no internet access, has no network access at all along the way. And ASU is committed to digital equity as part of its overall commitment to the community around us. We have been partnering with Watts College, and there have been a number of terrific stories, one that just broke yesterday. Again, some terrific work by the team, led by Annie and Eric Cole over at Watts College in partnership with Berto and others in the Isaac School District, thanks to James McCabe, who's been leading it from the UTO side. Also support from Jim Selmer and others. All of us are extremely interested in your success in terms of using our core competencies to advance network connectivity and extending it to the communities around us. There are in Arizona well over 100,000 households who have no internet. Imagine this last year. Imagine this last year, you had no internet. It's not only a remarkable challenge in terms of education. Just think about all of us who were challenged ourselves in terms of education this last year, but remarkable challenges for dealing with the healthcare system, remarkable challenges dealing with financial institutions, public service organizations if you had no internet. In Phoenix, as many of us know, we have lots, unfortunately, of people who live out on the street. It's just, life circumstances. You cannot get into public housing in Phoenix unless you apply online. Just think about that. And again, working with our library partners, working with our community partners at Watts College, beginning to address that work. So congratulations, again, as part of our community give back work to extend that work. And with that, if it's all right, Christine, I'm going to just pass it over to you. Here are some other terrific stories that you're welcome to peruse at your convenience. A fantastic team working on multiple stories every week coming out to celebrate your contribution to this remarkable institution. And I hope this is all about you feeling a recognition of hopefully the empowerment that, again, President Crow and myself want to, again, empower you to continue doing the amazing things you do.
Thank you so much, Lev, and welcome to the rest of our day, everyone. We are going to soar into the rest of our day. SOAR is a framework developed by my friend and colleague, Jackie Stavros, and she's going to be our headliner tomorrow, our keynote speaker at the top of tomorrow's day. So I hope you'll come back and listen to her story about how she developed SOAR. We're using this tool so that we can dig into the 5 themes that came out of last year's Empower event. Those of you that have been coming will remember that at the end of every Empower, we have a process for helping us come up with our top ideas out of all the things that have been discussed over the 2 days in this case. And these were the top 5 themes from last year: empowering student and employee growth and change, collaboration across the university, public dashboards, hybrid virtual working and improved work-life balance, and sustainable technological practices. Think about how those 5 themes sort of foreshadowed this year for us. We wouldn't be able to do much of what we're doing if we hadn't taken all of these things quite seriously. So we have a bunch of wonderful people from across ASU who are going to create a 15-minute presentation plus a 15-minute SOAR analysis based on these topics. And in round 1, which starts at 10:30, which means that you'll get a bit of a break between my talking and going into the headliners. You'll see that we have 5 different topics in each session. Round 3 has 6, and I'll give you more detail on that in just a minute. So what is SOAR? It's a way for us to think about what our strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results are, whether we're looking at ourselves as individuals or small groups or teams, or even a whole system. It's a wonderful strategic tool, and it enables us to think about both the internal conditions that create success as well as the external, and helps us focus in the present as well as in the future. So what you see on the left-hand side here is obviously just that little thing I just talked about. On the right-hand side is an actual SOAR analysis that we did a couple of weeks ago with a team inside of UTO. And you'll have the opportunity to do that in your small breakout groups. We have a SOAR guide, and if you ever need any help, if you have any questions about what to do, come into the lobby. So you just need to do hashtag empower-lobby to get there. We are hoping that every group will conduct this analysis and end up with a little sheet that looks like this. In the sheet itself, I'm actually going to go there and show you what it looks like. This is from our website. So you go to if you need to download the sheet, and by the way, there are folks that have been trained to help support the SOAR analysis in every session. So as a participant, just relax and enjoy your time. For those who want to get this tool for yourself, there's a PDF version of it here. And then there's a link here that takes you to the questions that you might want to ask, as well as a place for you to put your strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And at the end of the 3 rounds, we will come back together, and each presenter, each headliner will have 1 minute to share their next steps, their results, their tangible takeaways, anything that you think is really a good raw material for all of our conversations that we're going to have tomorrow in the open space session after Dr. Stavros does her presentation. So we will flow from today into tomorrow, and we're connecting last year with this year and going into the future from there.
On Sendable Rewards, they always have secret words, and you can collect pitchforks for prizes of any sorts. It could be tickets to a show or just ASU swag, but you generally get about 100 pitchforks per word. They come up at a lot of events, sometimes at ASU meetings and such. So you just collect them and get fancy stuff.
Great. Thanks, Erin. So those of you that are collecting those pitchforks, that's your secret word, SOAR, with a capital SOAR, to empower. And so here's what the headliners look like, what the showcases are based on those 5 themes I talked about a minute ago. So in round 1, we have, as I said, 5 sessions. I'm not going to read them to you, but I'm going to leave them up here for a minute, because basically when we come back together at 10:30, you're going to want to figure out which room you go to. And we will have the breakout rooms labeled with these headlines, or approximation of these headlines. There's only so many characters you can use. So this is round 1. And you'll see that we have a nice variety of things across those different topic areas. At the end of the 3 rounds, as I said, your headliners will have 1 minute to share your project, your passion, or your pursuit, coming out with what the key elements are that you want to share, the key ideas that were the takeaways.
Christine, what would you recommend for someone who's brand new to SOAR? I know our lovely volunteers have been trained on this, and this may be new to some folks. So I know there's some guiding questions that we put up on the webpage that kind of help people kind of take the ideas that are, presented by our amazing headliners and turn them into, tangible and actionable ideas. What are some questions, to get the conversation and discussions moving?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I'm going to go right back to this form that we were on before. So taking you to the website, downloading the form, and you will have to copy this form if you want to use it. Let me show you how to do that too before I go to the questions. You'll need to go up to the file and make a copy. And copy the entire presentation because it has the questions on it. While this is loading up, Dr. Stavros will talk about this much more tomorrow, but the real heart and the operating system of SOAR is appreciative inquiry. And many of you are familiar with that because we've been using AI, the different kind of AI, in our Empower events for the last 4 years. And so it's a strength-based approach that helps us take a look at not so much the problems that we're wanting to solve, but really what are the solutions. And so here, to get at the strengths, which is what we can currently look at, what's the greatest strength of this project? What assets and strengths will we preserve and build upon? Determine what you can leverage and build on to seize the opportunities you decide to pursue. So when you're listening to the presentation, you'll want to be making your own notes, or you're having a conversation, and then your SOAR supporter will be helping to fill this form out in real time based on what you're saying. So we might just try this for a minute and see what we can do. Let's talk about Empower itself. What do you think the greatest strength of Empower is, especially for those of you that have been around for a few years? And I'll just type it right in. So you can just see that I'm typing the best I can. into this sheet. In a conversation where you're trying to surface the strengths from a whole group, you'll probably want to have the conversation a little bit first and then start figuring out what the themes are that go in that strengths bucket. Establishing long-term partnerships, ideation and innovation, relationships, forward thinking, really great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to move on to the opportunities. So what are our most interesting and potent opportunities? A question I most often asked. Identify the opportunities that will help this idea take flight in honor of SOAR. So what do you think are the opportunities in our Empower event? So I think you get the idea. Thank you so much for putting your ideas in the chat. Communicating the successes that are results of Empower. That's great, Linda. Thank you. Okay. And so now, so strengths are in the present and they're internal to us. This is what we get from being a part of Empower. Opportunities are also in the present, but they're external. Like, what can we see out there that we know we are wanting to take advantage of? So, aspirations. So, what's the preferred future aspiration of this idea? What do we care deeply about and aspire to impact? So, build this from the strengths and opportunities is one way to do it, but just chat it out in the chat like you've been doing. We've got a good question in here. Where can I find more information about this Empower thing being mentioned? Empower is the name of this event. And you can certainly go to the Empower website. If you just Google Empower at ASU, I think you'll get right there. So aspirations: to build a collaborative and inclusive IT organization. That's sharing ideas outside of it. So, and to collaborate on the possibilities of future offerings. So think back to what Dr. Crow shared this morning and also what Lev shared about where we are and where we're going. What is something in our preferred future? Diversity in voice and solution design. Accessibility in every way. Increased experiential learning. So you're getting there. That's great. Okay, and then I am going to move on to the results. I'm pretty sure most everybody in this IT community is focused on results and focused on what we can measure, but basically, what are the measurable results that will tell us that we're making our intended impact? And we're suggesting that you just think of 3 goals at the end of your session that will come to this. The reason being that in many ways, the results are what you're going to probably want to share out in addition to any other context that you want to mention. So what are the results? Ability to influence K-12. Everybody leaving empowered, feeling empowered. That's wonderful. Now, let's say that we ended up with 10 things on this sheet. I wouldn't do anything other than prioritize them so that you can call out your top 3 when you report out, because we would love to have all of these Empower sheets sent back to us. So that means you'll need to save the SOAR Analysis sheet here onto your own hard drive and then either send it back to me in Slack or to Aaron in Slack, Aaron Morrow, who's been talking some this morning and is really responsible for this entire event. So I'm going to pause there and see if you have any questions. Oh, nice, Jenny. If they are measurable, should we ID metrics? Yes, please. Okay, I am going to move on since I don't see any questions there and go back to the round 1 choices that you have. And I think, Lev, you may have wanted me to go all the way back to that one. So here are the sessions that we have, 10:30 to 11. We'll come back together after round 1 to introduce round 2.